Hello, and welcome to the Undrift. Today I'm going to actually give you some information that might be useful instead of just trying to entertain you. Um, I currently run a Moza R9 base, as well as a Moza sequential shifter and Moza handbrake, and of course the SRP pedals, as you can see right here. First off, we'll go into the R9 base. And these are my basic settings. I use 900 degrees for drift. I keep my road sensitivity at 4. Basically, that's so that I don't feel a whole lot of the road. I don't feel all kinds of different bumps and stuff. I don't get rattled around like crazy. But I do get a good feel for what's going on, like wheel slip and stuff like that. As far as the force feedback intensity, with a 9 Newton meter wheelbase, 70%, maybe a little strong, but it's still good. The maximum wheel speed at 200% just means that when it switches, it's going to do it fast. So when you're trying to correct a steer or a slide or catching something you don't want to be doing, you're going to have a good chance of actually making that happen. The wheel spring strength, this is a force feedback wheel. I don't use that. I have no use for that. Wheel damper at 27%. Basically, it just keeps some of the odd vibrations and oscillations from happening. A certain amount of that's going to happen regardless, depending on the game. And of course, depending on the circumstance. Now, for advanced settings, the maximum output torque limit just at 100% just means that for the 70% that I have set here, this can use 100% of that 70%, not bumping the 100% back up to 100% there. Hands-off protection I don't use. Obviously, don't need to reverse force feedback for anything I play anyway. These settings, these basically are taken care of in game, but they're going to make unnatural forces and unnatural feelings to the wheel that you don't need. In the effect equalizer, starting at 0%, I've got 100% for there to 10, and I've got a kind of a downward slope all the way down. Anything at 100 hertz, that's going to be high frequency vibrations, and you don't want that in your wheel. That's going to feel really strange. So turning that off altogether is a good thing. Even at 60 and 40, these are not things you really want to be feeling through your wheel. That's not something you would feel normally in a car, so you don't need to feel it here. The ABS vibration, I know it looks like it's turned way down, but it's actually at about 50%, and that is something you would naturally feel in a car, so having some of that is alright. Beyond that, there's not much change on there. My base force feedback curve I just leave straight. The miscellaneous stuff, I'm not entirely sure where that base status indicator is, but it's on. I don't see a light on my base anywhere. Maybe it's on the back. The soft limit stiffness, again, that's usually handled in game rather than through hardware. Same thing with soft limit strength, all that stuff. That's all. The temperature, however, I just leave it the way it came, and that was set for radical. Okay, back to the wheel. I don't actually have a wheel set up on here. I'm using just an aftermarket wheel with a quick release. That way I can put whatever wheel I feel like playing with today, which today happens to be a nice black leather wheel with blue, 2 different tones of blue and red stitching, and a 2-tone blue and red center stripe. And it's a fun, comfortable wheel to play with. It's a 13-inch. So, anyway, back from there to the pedals. I should go to the home picture first, show you the pedals. As I hit the pedals, they actually do show up in the sliders there. You notice my brake, I'm not getting anywhere near maximum, pushing pretty hard on that for good reason. Back in here, you'll see my clutch. I have it pretty much linear. I mean, I have it linear, but it's a very simple thing. Throttle, same thing, it's linear. Brakes, however, because I don't want to be slamming on the brakes every time I touch the brake pedal, I want to make sure there's a lot of play in there, but that way I get a little more down low, and it kind of levels out at the medium. And again, I'm going to get a little more up at the top end, but there's a little bit of play in between. So, just a personal preference. I don't have a dashboard connected. I don't have a hub connected. I don't have a H shifter connected. But I do have my sequential, and I really like this shifter. There's not a whole lot of options here. I mean, it'll show you which buttons are which. It's nice to have that trigger, but there's not really a whole lot of use for that either. In certain games, I use it for lights. It's just convenient. Of course, you can set your own light colors for the two buttons that are down here. I've got mine set for green and blue. And the brightness. The shift direction reversed, realistically, that makes very little difference, because when I go to set up my own shifting pattern in game, I just use the buttons one way or the other. So, and I have no idea what the button synchronization thing is. So, apparently if you have a wheel, it'll synchronize the shifter with the paddle shifters on the wheel. I do have a wheel that I have on my R3, but I've never tested them, and I do have the same setup with the R3. So, of course, the handbrake, and it's in axis mode because I want to have an actual axis here. I don't want just a button that's a trigger. And of course, here's just the straight linear axis. It does work very well, and it is, as you can tell, there's a fair amount of play in that, and it does what it's supposed to do. And that's basically all you need to know with how to set up an R9 for drifting. Any of your other settings are going to be in game. In Assetto Corsa, which is what I use the most, there's Content Manager. It took a minute to load. Obviously, you're going to come down to your controls, your axis, and again, steering wheel axis shows up. I've got it set for 900 degrees, which is the same as in software. There's my throttle, my brakes, which you'll notice my brake is actually set up with a gamma of 2.4, so there's even more resistance to response there. Should probably change that, all things considered. I'm going to test that different. Set that back to 0 for right now. Anyway, and then my handbrake, again, as it's an axis, it shows up there. There's not a whole lot to do there. And the force feedback sort of makes a big difference. I got my gain at 100%, so it's basically doing the same thing as what it did in the software, where it says, I'll show you here again. Right here in the advanced settings where it says maximum output torque limit 100%, it's the same thing that is showing up here in the gain. It's saying that we're going to use that 100% basically. The minimum force is 5%, no filter. I turned down these effects to next to nothing. They're not useful. The post-processing stuff, again, not very useful. But in the custom shaders patch, and I'm not real sure which one I'm looking for here. There's use extended physics. Anyway, there's a setting in here somewhere. Maybe it's Content Manager. I don't know. I knew where all this stuff was just a few minutes ago. But basically, it's a setting that allows you to... force feedback tweaks, of course. There we go. Down here, it says output real steering forces to wheel. I've got that active. For some reason, that keeps jumping up to a number that's not reasonable. But setting that back down to something similar to what your wheel actually puts out is a good choice. I do have load cell brake pedals, but I don't really deal with this part. I'm thinking this is actually meant for something beyond just a basic load cell I have, but why not? We'll try it. Beyond that, that's pretty much all you need to know for setting up a Assetto Corsa to drift. Have fun. Hopefully that works out for you, and I'll see you next time on the Undrift.